entered your favorite, safe, quiet corner on the internet. I want you to shake the day off, because the world can wait. Now, please take a deep breath in with me, and out. Yeah. I have some Chinese mythological stories for you today. Buckle up. Although before we start, I want to apologize if I mispronounce any of these names because I don't speak Chinese and the tones are tricky for me. So, let's start. First myth of the day is the creation myth. It's about Pangu. Pangu is a significant and foundational mythological figure in China. According to mythology, it was him who created the world as we know it today. He is the first living being in the universe. You could say that the Big Bang theory started with him. In art and literature, he's often depicted as primitive, bestial in appearance, having the body of a man covered in thick hair. He was giant in size, holding an axe, and had horns on his head, which could not be more different from the wise, regal depictions of later Chinese diaries. The Pangu is usually depicted alone. In some elaborate Gu myths, he is accompanied by other mythological creatures, such as the phoenix, or the turtle, or the dragon, who all helped keep the world. There are many versions of the Pangu creation myth found throughout Chinese literature, folk tradition, and oral lore. The most famous legend tells the story of the cosmic egg. According to this myth, the universe started as an enormous black egg, out of which Pangu emerged. After having been asleep for 18,000 years, this had primordial forces of yin and yang, perfectly contained and balanced. But when Pangu finally woke up, he stretched his limbs to open the heavier parts of the egg's content, yin, fell and sank deep in the earth, while the lighter parts, yang, rose and became the sky. Therefore, heaven and earth came into existence. Another version of the myth says that the universe was an infinite expanse of swirling yin and yang vapor, as opposed to being contained in an egg. When Pangu appeared, he leaves through the chaos and separated the pure yin and yang energy with his mighty axe, essentially creating heaven and earth. He then stood between them, holding the heaven up with his hand, and the earth down with his feet pressed to the ground. With each passing day, the distance between heaven and earth grew by tens of thousands of feet, and Pangu grew along with us. This continued for another 18,000 years. A third, equally important variation of the myth says that Pangu, exhausted after having achieved the monumental task of separating heaven and earth, died, and his body became the essence, bringing the physical world into existence. It's said and believed that his breath became the wind and clouds, his voice the thunder, his eyes the sun and the moon, and his hair the stars and planets. Now let's jump into another creation myth. This is the goddess Nuwa and the mending of earth. This is a very famous story in the Chinese folklore and religion. The mother goddess, creator of all humankind. She is the goddess of nature, fertility, merit, and order. She was a very important lady, depicted as having the head of a human woman and the body of a serpent, as snakes were associated with fertility. And the most famous tale about Nuwa, she shaped the first humans from yellow clay or mud. After Pangu created the physical universe, one day Nuwa decided to go for a walk in the path of the Yellow River. There, she gathered some clay and carefully molded it into small figures that resembled her own form. When she breathed life into them, they became the first humans. She was having fun with her creations, but then she became tired, so she dipped the rope in clay and flicked it so droplets would scatter and fall into humans. Those she made by hand became nobles and rulers, and those formed from droplets became common people, which explains social hierarchy. After creating humans, this answer appears. The gods of the fire and water is a battle in the sky. Who should be the ruler of heaven? Wildfires rage and floods plague the countryside. This fight ended with the loss of the water god. Angry, he smashed his head against a mountain, which was one of the 4 pillars holding up the heavens. The earth quickly began to tremble, and the dark ripped a hole in the sky. The broken sky created chaos. Heaven tilted toward the northwest, causing stars and the sun to drift. Earth tilted toward the southeast, causing rivers to overflow and flood the land. Fires raged and checked across the world. was total chaos. Seeing how her children were suffering, Nuwa immediately sprang to action. She melted stones of the 5 colors to repair the movements and cut off the feet of the tortoise to set right the 4 extremities of the earth. Gathering the ashes of reeds, she stopped the flooding waters and thus rescued the land. One version of the story says, after she was done, she was so tired that she laid down to rest, but unfortunately died from exhaustion. Another version says that while she was working, she discovered there wasn't enough stone to fix the sky. She sacrificed herself and used her body to fill the spots. Either order was restored to earth and humanity was able to live peacefully without sheets of banks. No one couldn't get this earth to be exactly the way they were before. The earth became permanently tilted, and that's why it's that all the rivers in China run in a southeastern direction. Our final myth is a love story. It is the cowherd and the weaving maid. When researching this myth, I found so many different versions, more or less detailed. So I decided to go with the clearest one I could find. So let's start. Now this is a rather unusual love story because fairy tales end with the 2 people, like the hero and the heroine, getting married, living happily ever after, right? This one myth is kind of different. It doesn't stop there. So let me just start. Far away from the mortal world, heaven lives an immortal fairy maiden called Jinro, which means the weaving maid. The name comes from the work she used to do. She used to weave layers upon layers of beautiful clouds that change color depending on the season. That's how they explained this natural phenomenon. So Zhenyu and another immortal, Chen Yongshang, fell in love with each other, which was not allowed in the celestial world. Upon hearing this, the Heavenly Mother, Wang Mu, banished Chen Yongshang to the human world. Jinru, of course, was devastated by this. She cried, she missed him, she grieved. Now in the human world, it is believed that Xian Yushang was reborn into a peasant family, and he was named New Long, which means cowherd. Years passed and Nulong's parents passed away. His only remaining relatives were his brother and sister-in-law. They both treated him cruelly and eventually taken him out of the family home. Now here is where versions differ. Some say Nulong's brother and sister-in-law gave him an old cow so he can use it to fend for himself, while others say that they didn't give him anything. Instead, a farmer took pity on the homeless boy and offered him a daily meal and a bed of straw in a cowshed. In return, the boy was to look after the farmer's ox, cow. They are the same word in Chinese, but different translations in English had different word. It's the same. Either way, the old cow was the reincarnation of the star of the celestial golden bull, twins, who originally carried messages for Qian Yushang and Xinu, and was also banished from the heavenly court. One day, Xinu and other fairy maidens, who are believed to be 7 sisters in some versions of the story, descended to earth to bathe in Jade Lotus Pond, which was a yearly habit of theirs. That was the day the old cow and talked like a human. Speaking to Nuwa, it told him about the immortal fairies bathing in the pond and said, "If you go and hide one of the red robes of immortality, then the fairy it belongs to will become your wife." Nuwa was understandably blown away out of his mind when the cow could talk. But he did exactly what he was told. When he arrived at the pond, the maidens were playing in the water, and their red robes were laying on the ground. He stealthily picked one of them and ran with it to hide behind a tree. When the beautiful fairies came out of the water, only one of them could not find her robe, and was therefore unable to escape. That was who this fairy was. It was Xinu. As soon as Nulong saw Xinu, he was attracted to her, and he felt like he recognized her from a long time ago. He stepped out and sincerely requested that Xinu be his wife. When Xinu saw Nulong, she immediately recognized him as her own Qian Yushang, whom she has missed day and night, and happily accepted the proposal. Both lovers ended up getting married and lived happily for years and had 2 daughters. Then, one day, Nulong hurried home from tilling the field and told Xinu that the old cow died. The strange thing happened before it passed death's door. Apparently, the cow had told him to take his hide or skin, and if something ever happens, to drape it over his shoulders, and he would be able to fly up to heaven. Xinu thought this was strange, but still let Nulong keep the cow's hide and bury the old cow properly. Shortly after this, a fierce wind blew up. Many soldiers came down from heaven, and without saying a word, they grabbed Jinnu and flew back up. What just happened? You're asking? Well, when Queen Mother Wangmu found out that Jinnu got married to a mortal, started life in the mortal world, she was enraged and sent the celestial soldiers to go and bring her back. And this is when the cow's skin came in handy. At that moment, Jinnu asked Nuwa to put it on so he could follow them to the immortal realms, which he did, taking their 2 daughters with him. Wangmu, outsmarting them, used her hair to create a huge river surging between them, separating them completely. Jinnu looked at the opposite side of the bank, seeing her family staring back at her, both crying and heartbroken. Queen Mother Wangmu saw this scene and didn't have the heart to go through with it, so she agreed to let Long and the children stay in heaven and allow them to be a whole family for the first week of the 7th month free. Then Long and his daughters lived happily. Well, not really, but they kind of had each other in heaven, gazing at Jinnu from across the great river, the Milky Way separating them. First week of the 7th month every year, thousands and thousands of black-billed magpies fly in and make a bridge across the Milky Way, allowing them to come together. And it's said that if you listen quietly and carefully, you can still hear them endlessly speaking words of love to each other. And now, the song is complete. Thank you for being here. You are safe. You are calm. You are enough. Until next time, stay hydrated and rest well.